We'll make the chart in our application using a library called Flutter2, which is open source. It's based off another library called Flut, but without so many dependencies. I think the prototype library is removed or something like that. The thing is that it's quite lightweight and works pretty well, so I've opted to use it. As you can see, that it has all sorts of different charts that you can use. So you need to look at the documentation for the and the examples for the types of charts that you are planning to use on your own projects. What we need from here is this file, the minified file, which is this one, and I've placed that inside of the JS folder along with the other JavaScript files. You need to include that in your I've included that on my index.html file, so it's up there. And now if we go to the to report.html, I've added a rounded panel like we've done before, gave it a title of time distribution, which is the title of the chart, and in the inside I added a container which I called chart div, and I gave it a width of 100% and a height of 300 pixels. You don't need to place this inside of a round panel or anything. You can just place this div anywhere you want, but I thought it would look better if I did it that way. There's another important thing that I've modified here. This is records.html, a different page. In all the other pages we have the indicator set as true. That's a loading indicator. When you open the page, it shows a loading indicator for a very short fraction of time, and then that's gone. Well, if you have that in place, and you're planning on using this charting library, it's not going to initiate properly, because while this thing is on, everything else is hidden, and the Flutter 2 library relies on things not being hidden in order to create the chart. So for this particular page, I'm not showing the loading indicator, and that took a lot of pain to get right. But so you don't have to make the same mistake and get stuck there if you're planning on using a charting library on your app. Now let's go to the code of ztiempo.js. We've initiated our list, our image list, and now we're going to initiate the chart. The first thing we need to do is select the chart element by ID. That's how I've done it. And then I'm going to create an empty array which will store the data for the chart in the correct format. Now, what the format should be, that's something you get from the documentation by looking at the examples on their website. I'm going to iterate through all of the projects and save the number of hours in this array using the right format, which is like this, like an array and then another array, 0, and then I'm showing the number of hours. This number is not going to be shown. What it's going to show is the percentage, but you have to write the number here. And this is where the name of the project goes, for the legend. So that's initiating all this array, and then I could just show the chart. But I don't want to just show the chart, because if there are no records, it's going to show an empty chart and it's going to look very ugly. So I'm only going to show the chart if there are any records. So this is how I'm doing that. Just creating an if statement to make sure there is something inside to show. If there's nothing to show, I'm just going to show like a message for the user: you haven't tracked your time yet. This should be a little bigger. And if there are records, then I'm going to initiate the chart following what you can find in the examples for a pie chart. Basically, we are using this global object that's brought by including this library file, and we're calling it draw method on the corresponding div which we've selected before, that has the chart data in the right format. And then there's different options that you can play with, and in this case I'm using pie, showing the pie chart, and some options for the legends as well. So if I didn't make any a silly mistake, we should be okay. Let's track some time. Well, let's not track any time first. See what it looks like when there's nothing. It shows, it tells you that you haven't tracked your time yet. Now let's track some time, just for one project. That's of course 100% for that particular project, for app 1. And I can track some time for another project now, and some for app 3 as well. And you see how it shows you the distribution of the time, how you're using your own time. Just to summarize, we downloaded the Flutter 2 library. We included it in the minified version in our index.html app. Now in report.html, we made sure there's no loading indicator in here, because if there is, you're not going to see any charts. We created a round panel with a header, and inside of a round panel there's a div which I called chart div. I gave it a width and a height. That's something you have to do. It can be in percentage or in pixel units. And then I initiated the chart by selecting firstly where it's going to be placed, what the data is going to be. That was all initiated here, following the documentation of this chart library. And if there are records, I want the chart to be shown as a pie chart. If there are no records, I want the user to I want to let the user that there's no records yet, that there's nothing to show.